welcome to another episode of Pet Pals. I'm Bethany Davidson, the humane educator here at Frederick County Animal Control and Pet Adoption Center. And animal wrangling for us is our volunteer coordinator, Sean Snyder. And our first guest is one that we've had for a long time, actually. Allegra's been with us since July, but not all cats really enjoy the trek to our show sets. Recently, some volunteers have been letting us know that Allegra is more comfortable being picked up and things like that, so we thought we'd give it a shot. Allegra is one of our senior cats at about 6 years old, and she is a very sweet girl despite the grumbling that she's doing right now. She's just a little bit scared out of her safe zone because the reality is that for about 6 months now, Allegra's been living in a very specific spot, and she doesn't really leave that spot very often. So it can be a little bit overwhelming and stressful to make those transitions. And something that people need to realize is that when they come from the shelter to your home, even though a home is often less stressful than the shelter environment, it's still going to be upsetting for them because this is their home and this is what they know. Allegra loves attention. She's also quite playful. I can attest to that. And since she recently got moved to a larger cage on one of our bottom setups, the volunteers are now saying that Allegra is also a lap cat, which is a really great thing. A lot of people are specifically looking for that. And they've also noted that she doesn't seem to mind the other cats around her. So if you're looking to add maybe Allegra to a multi-cat home, that's something that with proper introductions, she should probably be okay with. She also likes to be brushed, and she does need to be brushed a little bit, especially towards her back end. Brushing her is going to be very, very helpful for her and help reduce like hairballs and things like that as they're grooming themselves.
So Allegra and some of the other cats have special beds. Why is that, and what is that bed?
So a lot of the cats, just in general, it's important to give them a space to hide, even for the most confident cats. When people are walking by them all day, they're like, gosh, I just wish I could have some privacy, right? But it's more important for other cats sometimes because they're a little bit more nervous. So Allegra has a hidey hut bed. Hers right now is like the Snoopy doghouse. When she first came out onto the adoption floor, she spent all of her time in that bed. It was the place that made her feel safe and secure. And now it's just like her nap space. She goes in there when she's feeling nervous, but she also just likes to sleep in there. But we're noticing more and more that she's coming out. She might be sleeping in there, hanging out, but then when a visitor approaches, she comes right out. She wants to play and engage, but we don't want to take those things away from her because it is a sense of, it's like a little security blanket for a kid maybe. And whenever she's feeling nervous, she goes right in there. And she's not the only cat that has one of those. Rosie, another one of our long-term residents, has a bed that's very important to her, and some of the other ones as well. So if you're noticing those things, they're in there for a reason. It's not because we want them to be less visible to the public. It's because we want them to feel more comfortable and safe in an often very stressful environment. But if you are ready to give Allegra that permanent home that she's been waiting for quite some time, you can go to visit fcac.as.me to start that process. While Allegra may have been one of our longtime cat residents, Ahura is one of our newer cat residents. She's about 2 years old, and she came to us as a stray like most of our cats. So, we're still getting to know her, but we have learned a lot of things about her. She loves attention, first and foremost, which is what a lot of people are looking for in their cat. She loves petting, and she's very playful, and she has recently received her lap cat sign on her cage. So the volunteers have definitely solidified her lap cat status there. And she is just got the greatest markings too. She has that little white line that kind of works its way from her face down her chest. She's very soft, and she's a very confident cat. And, a lot of people, especially people with younger kids, are looking for those confident cats that can handle the noise and the commotion, whereas some of our cats are a little bit shyer, don't necessarily want to deal with those things. But she's going to be a great fit for children of any age, really. And her ability to fit in with other cats might be a little hit or miss. What I noticed the other day when I was interacting with the cat next to her is that she was doing a lot of grumbling and a little bit of hissing, and didn't seem very happy that the other cat was kind of in her eye line. That was the first time that I had noticed that, so I don't know if that's something that she was just, annoyed that she wasn't getting to sit on a lap at that time, or if that's something that, she's not really vibing with other cats. So that's something we'll have to keep an eye on, so that we can better inform our potential adopters.
So Hura has one trait that's hit or miss with some adopters. What's that trait?
She's a talker. Some people love that their cat just walks around and chit chats and meows at them all day long, and other people are like, calm down, enough already. But she is definitely a talker. She's a little bit nervous right now, so she's like not saying anything. She's like, nobody knows that I'm here. But definitely on the cat floor, she's yelling and begging for attention. And she's not alone. She's now in a row of cats that all they do is talk all day long. So it's like the noisy section over there, the cheering section, if you will. But if you are not upset by that and you think that it's a great quality to have, then you should definitely come and meet with her. She's 2 years old, so she's not necessarily a kitten, but that's a good thing. She's out of that kitten phase, but she's still young enough that she's going to grow up and be with your family for a long time, which is a lot of the reasoning that people overlook some of these adult cats and look for those kittens. But the other great thing is that her personality is more set, so she's going to be that cat that's going to cuddle up on your lap, whereas kittens, you're not so sure what you're going to get. So if there are specific traits that you're really looking for, then maybe check out some of these adult cats. If you think this particular adult cat is one that you want to be part of your family, then you're going to need to go to visitfcac.as.me to start that process. The first dog that we have for you today is a dog that we have had in our facility before. Giblet first arrived at this shelter last year about this time, hence the name Giblet. And then after a couple of months, he got adopted. And unfortunately, the family just found that they just don't have the time for him any longer. And so now this Thanksgiving, he's back here with us again. Giblet is a very friendly, very affectionate, very playful dog, and that's what you would expect with a dog that's about 1.5 years old. He is adorable, as is quite obvious, and he does really, really well with other dogs, which is something that's important. A lot of people are looking for a dog that can coexist in a multi-dog household. He however, doesn't do well with shelter environment. He is very, very stressed here. So he is on some medication right now to kind of help keep him calm and relaxed. We keep him in a different area where there's not as many dogs so that he can kind of relax. Those medications are things that his new family would have to wean him off of. He's not necessarily something that he's going to need to maintain long term, but it's not something that you can just stop. You want to make sure that you're really weaning them off appropriately for their overall health.
So Giblet does have a medical condition that a potential adopter needs to know about. What is that?
So he actually has two things going on. He has an adorable little head tilt. We're not sure where that came from. It started when he was here the first time. It could be from trauma. Maybe he knocked his head on something, but it doesn't seem to greatly affect his quality of life. He just, has an adorable little tilts. Sometimes he doesn't walk super straight. But more importantly, he has a grade 4 out of 4 medial luxating patella on his right hind leg. So that's something that people are going to need to be mindful of. He may need more vet care. He may need a potential surgery. We don't know what's going on with that exactly right now. But it is something that, impedes him from, say, going on really long walks and, going on hikes. And you want to make sure that you're being mindful of how much exercise he's getting. It might also affect his ability to go up and down stairs. Doesn't mean that he necessarily couldn't live in a home with stairs, but maybe he doesn't go upstairs to go to bed with you guys at night. Maybe he has a crate on the first floor, things like that. So those are all important things to think about, and you want to make sure that you read his medical carefully. A lot of people like to take those medicals to their vet and have their vet review them so they can get an opinion from somebody that they are more familiar with and have a better trusting relationship with, and that's something that we do provide. But we think that, Giblet is a wonderful dog and deserves a loving home. We've had other dogs with similar issues, although maybe not as severe. Mr. Peabody had a luxating patella. Achilles also had a luxating patella. Julie, one of our long-term residents, had another similar issue. So we are able to adopt these dogs out. They just need a special home that's going to be, really checking in and being mindful of that issue. But if that's not a big deal for you and you think that Giblet would be a great addition to your household because he's also kid friendly as well, then you can go to visit fcac.as.me to book an appointment to meet him. Our next guest is Zan, and he is one of several of our under 1-year-old dogs that we have available for adoption. He's about 6 months old, which was about the age that Giblet was when he first arrived here last year. He is a very sweet dog, but he is a very shy dog. And it does take him a little bit of time to warm up, but he is very treat motivated. So that is a good way to win him over. He is, even though he's 6 months old and he should have a lot of those basics of training and just, understanding of the world kind of under his belt, he really doesn't yet. So he's a dog that even though he's a little bit older, you want to treat him like that, tiny kind of 8-week-old puppy. So, all new situations are rewarded with, tasty treats. So he learns that those things are fun and not scary, expecting that he's going to need to be house trained. When these guys first arrived, they were very unfamiliar with the leash. They really didn't even want you to put the leash over them. So they're still learning to walk on leash. Just kind of really a patient family. We don't have any restrictions in terms of like kids and things like that because they are very sweet. But again, loud noises might startle them, especially Zan. He is one of 3 siblings that came. So Zan is the one we're showcasing today because we showcased his 2 sisters on the radio recently. So he does have 2 sisters. They're a little bit smaller. They are Jana and Ginger, same ages. All 3 are terrier mixes, but they're just a little bit more outgoing. So, if you do have kids, maybe you go one of the sisters. We will not be adopting these guys out together because we do not adopt siblings out together. Oftentimes they tend to bond more closely with each other than their owners, and the owners kind of get upset that they're like, why doesn't my dog love me? All they want to do is cuddle with their sibling.
So Zan arrived in an interesting way. Tell me about that.
So when these 3 dogs arrived, they jumped out of the window of the truck that they were being transported in. So they were running loose on the front of our property. That's never ideal. So I often preach about, keeping windows closed when you're driving your animals around. And that's a very good example of why you should do that. And not only could they jump out and, potentially get, hit by a car or something like that. If you're just driving around, there's going to be debris that could potentially get into their eyes, a whole host of things. But it's also important to note, like when you're surrendering an animal to us, whether it's a stray that you found or an owned animal, you want to go to the back of our building where you're going to see the officers' trucks, and there's a button back there that you're going to press. And it's really important to be as truthful as possible when you're surrendering an animal. If it's a stray animal, we want to know where you found it, if you kept it in your home, did it get along with your children or pets, or, what was the situation in which you found it? Was it tethered somewhere, or you just find it roaming? And if it's your animal, be honest. You don't have to tell us it was a stray. If it's your animal, let us know. The more information that you can give as to why you're surrendering it, how long you had it, it's not so that we can, give you a hard time. It's so that we can best place the animal in a home that's going to be a good fit for them, but also so we can provide them with the best care here in our facility. We want to set all of these guys up for success. We don't want them to be uncomfortable. We want to make sure they're getting their proper medication or foods. So it's really important to be as honest as possible. But if you think that you have the patience and the gentleness to teach Zan here that the world is an awesome place and you want to make him part of your family, you can go to visit fcac.as.me to start the process. If you're not looking for a younger dog, you want something a little bit less exuberant. We do have some older dogs, not super senior citizens, but a little bit older. And Piper is one of those. She's listed as about 4 to 5 years old. She did come in as a stray, so those are estimates based on their teeth and their overall body condition. But she is a very sweet girl. She has usually been fairly confident. She doesn't seem to have any issues going out with new volunteers. In fact, one of our new outing volunteers came in to get her yesterday, never met her, took her on an outing. She jumped right in the car. She walked around the park without any incidents. She does know sit, and she is very easy to walk. Unlike a lot of our dogs who pull considerably and are really working on those polite leash walking manners, Piper walks great on a leash. So if you're concerned about a dog pulling you over, things like that, then she might be a good option for you because she does walk so nicely. And she's just a super sweet girl, and she is going to make a great addition to any household.
So Piper has so many great traits. How does she do with other dogs?
So she has done well for the most part with the dogs outside. She does a little trash talking inside, but that could be because other dogs are starting it. But she was brought in as a stray, and the person who found her kept her overnight. And said that she did really well with their dog in their household. So even with just, brief interactions, she's been doing really well. But it is important to make sure when you're introducing dogs that you do it correctly. So if you have an existing dog in your household and you're thinking of adopting one of ours, we do little meet and greets with the dogs here. It's not going to be a 100% guarantee that they're going to do well, but it is going to give you an idea of how trainable that situation is. So we do that. We do some parallel walks, and we'd let them do some butt sniffing, maybe then some on-leash play. And those are things that you would want to repeat when you get home as well. So, doing it in the front yard first or a more neutral location, then going in the backyard, and getting them accustomed to each other before bringing them in. And it's really important to make sure that you're not just leaving them unsupervised as soon as you get them home. Make sure that you're, using baby gates if necessary. You're supervising them, maybe letting them drag leashes so you can quickly grab them if you need to. But there's a lot that goes into it. You don't just want to, throw 2 dogs together and say they're going to be fine, because that's often sometimes a setup for something bad to happen, or for one of the dogs to end up back here at the shelter. But if you want to make our boxer mix Piper here part of your family, she has a lot to say about it. You can go to visit fcac.as.me to figure out how to make that appointment, and also to find downloadable applications to make her part of your family. This is the last guest that we have for you today. This is Husky, our Husky. He is a little bit of a different color than what most people see. Most people see, the black and white or the sable and white, and he is a red and tan mix. So he's got a very unique color, a very unique look to him, and he's incredibly sweet. He's kind of a laid back guy, just kind of lounges in his kennel all day. Lots of volunteers take him out without any issue. He's an easygoing guy, loves to cuddle and be petted and roll around and show you his belly, and seems to be doing pretty well with other dogs as well. Doesn't really seem to have a huge reaction to them. They just walk by his kennel. He doesn't really care. We've introduced him to, with some parallel walks to other dogs, which seem to be okay. Some dogs don't like him, but it's not his fault. And when we're talking about Huskies, it's important to recognize, right now when it's really cold out, that's actually when they like to be outside. That's what they're bred for. We get tons of calls every year to our ACO line. This dog is outside. It's so cold. It's a Husky. He's totally fine. But the inverse of that is when it's really warm out, these guys are not really bred for that. So you have to be more mindful of that. So if you're a summer lover and you don't want to be out when it's cold, then maybe adding a Husky to your family is not the right choice, because, they're going to want to be out when you want to be in. So those are things to think about, as well as, just the grooming maintenance, making sure that they're getting blowouts and brushed, and hoping that you have a really good vacuum cleaner, because there's going to be Husky fur all over your furniture.
So like you said, he's laid back, easygoing. However, we are recommending him for families with kids that are teen plus possibly. Why is that?
So he has a little bit of a resource guarding thing with his toys. It's not uncommon, people always talk about resource guarding with dogs like it's so bad, and it's not great. But think about it: we resource guard our stuff all the time. We lock our doors. We want to make sure people aren't getting into our various accounts. We're guarding our resources, so it's a natural thing, and our animals do it too. But we want to make sure that we're not setting him up for a home where kids are going to take things from him and then potentially get hurt. So that's why we're recommending him for families with kids that are old enough to understand those things. It's not a severe resource guarding thing. We haven't had any really serious issues. It's just kind of more like giving you all the cues, like a little, body blocking, growling, saying, hey, I don't want you to take that. And you can work on that with different protocols that we would go over during our adoption consultation process. So things like I come in peace and teaching them trade. So I don't think it's going to be a huge issue, but it is something that you need to work on. And just because you've taught your dog those things one time doesn't mean that you can stop. You want to make sure you're doing it all the time as a game to kind of maintain those good behaviors, and so that he understands that that's something that's going to happen all the time. But if that doesn't seem to be a factor that's going to worry you, or maybe you don't have any kids that you need to worry about, and you can't wait to add him to your household, you're going to need to go to visit fcac.as.me to begin that process. As is always the case, we've only showcased just a handful of our adoptable pets right now. I think we have close to 20 adoptable dogs right now, and like 5 or 6 that are under the age of a year. So we have a lot of young dogs looking for forever homes. We still have kittens available. We have animals in the small animal room, including a turtle and a parakeet. So if you haven't seen what you're looking for on the show, go ahead and make that appointment to visit, because you never know what you might find here at Frederick County Animal Control.